So in a way, the archive sort of determines how, I try to avoid using archive like to illustrate something. I mean, actually, I think there's some examples in that where I fail. They do end up very illustrative. But for me, it's about trying to find what the heart of the archive is itself and try and make scenes where the archive isn't just a way of illustrating the audio. I think that's really important, that films like this need to be led by the picture, led by the images. And that leads to a sort of production issue, where to make it, it's firmly my belief that to make the best film, you not only need, to be a good filmmaker, but you need the conditions in which you can make a good film, and that's where sort of having a great producer is really important. Why do great filmmakers make bad films? Usually because something's happened within the sort of conditions of the making of that film that's made it very hard for them to work at their best. And so if we were going to do, if we were going to find this archive, watch it, start to experiment with it before we were shooting, which is what we wanted to do, that was a big sort of cash flow issue in the film, because it was going to be very expensive to scan this material. I think it cost somewhere in the region of £20,000, so $30,000 I guess.
Necesitábamos que agentes nos financiaran para que nos dieran dinero y poder hacer esos escaneos, y siempre es una cuestión de tira y afloja.
That's it in March 2000 what year are we in? 2014, and then we'd finished the film by the following January. So the actual production of the film was very short, in a way, because we'd spent so long kind of preparing for that moment. So just to talk about sort of taking that material then into an edit, I mean, when I interview people in that situation, I decided to interview in a studio because I felt that if people are retrospectively, thinking about this thing 30 years ago, they needed a place in which we could create a real sense of sort of focus, so they could really think about the details of those moments. And I also wanted all their interviews to kind of come out of the same sort of space. So we built a sort of a set which we could move and change within a studio. And I did sort of 3 interview sessions. We shot the interviews over maybe a 3 or 4 week period. Each interviewee, I would do like 3 times 3-hour interviews, and always break those interviews with a night, so that we both had time to sort of think about it and think about what had been said. And I would do things like, I wouldn't show them the archive, because I felt that sometimes if you show people archive, that almost replaces their memory with another kind of image. But I did play them audio, so whilst we were setting up, I would just play some of those reel-to-reel tapes, often things that they'd never heard before themselves. So, they would never have heard the kind of the audio rushes shot on board the boat when they were a crew member, but you'd hear them, and you'd hear the sounds of the boat, and you'd hear them talking to each other. So that was a way of really kind of trying to take them back into this moment. And I would be interviewing them around this sort of scene structure that I had. So again, those interviews would be fairly focused. Obviously, they'd come up with other stuff, and there were things that they wanted to talk about that I knew wouldn't be in the film. Patrick Moore wanted to talk a lot about climate change and Monsanto, but I knew that, I kind of let people talk in that case, but I don't, you kind of know you're not going to put that in the film, because it just had no place in the world of the film.